Welcome to this episode of Uplifting News Sleep Aid Daily, where we read you good news to fall asleep to. Today is Saturday, April 18th, 2020. Our uplifting stories include the American flag projected onto the Swiss Alps, how live event companies became pandemic responders, Google gives its workers 8 extra weeks of paid leave, and a Czech app that helps workers respond to domestic violence. Now, breathe in. Breathe out. And relax as we dive into these stories. Our first article is from the New York Post by Adam Schrader. American flag projected onto Matterhorn in Swiss Alps for coronavirus solidarity. Oh, say, can you see? An artist projected an image of Old Glory onto the famous Matterhorn mountain in the Swiss Alps Wednesday as a part of a series to spread hope and solidarity, stunning images show. Jerry Hofstetter, a light artist known for transforming buildings and landscapes all over the world into temporary art projects, was selected to illuminate the mountain daily starting March 24, according to Zermatt Matterhorn, a website that promotes tourism to the local town of Zermatt. As it stands, the USA is the country that has been most impacted by the COVID-19 crisis, with the highest number of confirmed cases. Our thoughts are with all the American people at this unprecedented time, a release from Zermatt Matterhorn reads. May our message convey solidarity and give you hope and strength. We look forward to meeting again at the foot of the Matterhorn. We are all in this together. The Embassy of Switzerland in the United States posted an image of the American flag projection with a message for Americans. Incredible! As a sign of solidarity, the American flag was projected onto the Matterhorn last night. Switzerland is sending hope and strength to the United States of America, the caption of the post reads. Hofstetler has also projected the flags of Japan, Germany, the United Kingdom, Spain, France, and Italy, as well as textual messages including #StayAtHome and #AllOfUs onto the 14,690-foot tall mountain. Our next article is from the Rolling Stone by Ethan Millman, read by special guest Kimberly Marable.
How 100 live companies banded together to become pandemic responders. When the COVID-19 pandemic first struck the live events industry and put all concerts, sports games, and other mass gatherings out of action, 3 production companies got together to figure out ways they could spend the downtime helping healthcare workers. Their efforts have quickly evolved into a nationwide coalition of thousands of event workers supplying essential supplies. Live for Life officially launched on Monday as a coalition of 90 participating companies. By Thursday, that was up to 110. Before the pandemic began, all of the companies were helping prepare conferences and conventions, auto shows, music festivals, and many other types of large-scale audience events, putting up tents, graphics, and temporary structures. Now they're offering materials and manpower for 3D printed medical devices, personal protection equipment parts, and building out larger infrastructure for temporary hospitals. What we do on an everyday basis is plan and organize large-scale events and experiences. George P. Johnson CEO Chris Mayer, one of the leaders of the coalition, tells Rolling Stone. That means using the tools, the processes, the training of our people. This is what we do. We just happen to do that at large-scale conferences or a festival or an auto show or sporting events. But the principles of planning and delivering and moving an event, all of that is transferable to whatever the needs are. Planning began about 3 weeks ago. The coalition started with 3 live event production companies, George P. Johnson, Exploring Inc., and Sarnowski, which specialize in production for large-scale events like music festivals, conferences, and conventions, and usually compete with one another. Seeking an outlet to keep employees working as their usual base of live events shut down, other companies were quick to sign on. Coalition members are already working on 40 to 50 projects across the country, organizers tell Rolling Stone, including helping build the temporary hospital at the Javits Center in New York. Live for Life has frontline workers building out infrastructure where possible, and when that's not an option, it sends parts and engineering instructions to authorized workers like the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. The coalition has had preliminary discussions with the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, as well as FEMA, for more national assistance, which could further down the line contribute toward more facilities like mass vaccination centers. The supplies these companies are producing now are a sharp departure from their day-to-day projects. But given how varied designs may be from one larger event to another, the shift is manageable. The most challenging shift for his team, says Sarnowski Vice President of Sales Nick Simonette, was designing PPEs like gowns and masks. Structures for temporary hospitals, he says, was more straightforward. We use common materials in uncommon ways, he says. People are thinking creatively and critically, and that's fascinating to see. Event cancellations have taken away much of the company's business. Several of Live for Life's companies, including all three of the co-founders, have furloughed workers. Sarnowski has around 800 full-time and 3,000 part-time workers, but its workforce is now about 40% of its size. Manufacturing PPE and temporary hospital infrastructure has given the companies the chance to salvage at least some work for a fraction of their employees while contributing to the greater need for essential supplies. Live event companies are versatile, Mayer says, making them a natural fit to supply resources for needed supplies and infrastructure for the pandemic. Organizers say Live for Life is working at a cost rather than profit, making only enough to pay expenses and employee wages. While the co-founders say pivoting toward disaster response is a relatively seamless shift for live event producers, they hadn't handled response like this before. There was little outreach from the federal government for assistance, but sensing a need, they moved forward to make themselves known. They didn't know about us. We're the biggest industry you've never heard of, Simonette says. Our outreach was because we didn't hear anything. If you look at the methodology to erect these hospitals they're trying to produce, they're all over the board what the coalition is doing. Eventually, the crisis will wind down, but coalition co-founders are pondering what's to become of Live for Life when its services are no longer needed on such a national scale. It's too early to make those decisions, organizers say, and there's still much work to be done. Still, the foundation's been set for similar work in the future. Do we unwind it, or does it just sit in the background and wait? Simonette says. What we're hoping to do, with disaster recovery, there's a protocol that was already set, but there was no protocol for pandemic. We want to be part of the solution, so if this happens again, there's already a playbook.
This podcast is hosted on Anchor.fm. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. It's free, there's creation tools to allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute the podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor.fm to get started. Our next article is from CNN Business by Rishi Liengar. Google increases family leave for employees to 14 weeks. Google is giving its workers 8 extra weeks of paid leave to take care of their families as the coronavirus outbreak forces schools to remain closed. The tech giant is now offering 14 weeks of additional leave due to the global pandemic, the company confirmed to CNN Business. Last month, it gave 2 weeks of leave for caregivers in its workforce, with an option to take 4 more. Employees can take consecutive weeks off or adjust their working hours over several days, a spokesperson said. The policy will only apply to Google's full-time global workforce, which numbers more than 100,000, and not to its thousands of vendors and contractors, the spokesperson added. Google's move follows a similar one by tech rival Microsoft, which last week gave its employees 12 weeks of paid parental leave. The coronavirus has forced schools around the world to shut, with UNESCO estimating that school closures across 188 countries are impacting more than 91% of the world's student population, around 1.6 billion children and young adults. Several U.S. states have extended school closures, with some governors already announcing schools will remain shut for the rest of the academic year. Our last article is from Expats CZ by Katrina Modra. Czech delivery people and postal workers can now respond to domestic violence during quarantine. With help from a new app, delivery staff and postal workers are now being trained to search for signs of domestic violence during quarantine. Due to the current movement restrictions put in place to combat the spread of coronavirus, many domestic victims who seek help may have difficulty doing so. A new initiative to educate postal workers and couriers, some of the few people that victims may come into contact with these days, on the signs of abuse, launched yesterday. The Vodafone Foundation, Czech Post, have put together information for couriers and mail delivery staff, showing them how to recognize the signs of domestic violence and how to react. Easy-to-follow instructions on what to do when customers, male or female, need help will be given to Czech postal employees. Couriers from other food delivery services will also receive them. If a woman comes to pick up a delivery and is visibly tearful, or if shouting and swearing can be heard, it's clear that something probably isn't right, and asking people how they are doesn't cost anything, says Branislava Marvanova-Vargova of Rosa. During the lockdown, the organization is also offering clients the option to get in touch via chat on www.rosacentrum.cz. If couriers or mail delivery staff inadvertently become witnesses to domestic violence, they will be given advice on how to proceed. They can also establish whether those suffering abuse are safe or whether the police should be called. They can also refer victims to the Bright Sky CZ mobile application, which provides complete and up-to-date information for those suffering abuse. The app, designed to help victims of domestic violence, has been successfully used by Czech police officers and specialized counseling and intervention centers since its February launch. In March, the application, which originated in Great Britain, was recommended to beauty salons. From the outset, Bright Sky CZ has been seen as a tool for raising awareness. It's designed for victims themselves, but also anyone concerned about loved ones who may be experiencing domestic violence. Obviously, couriers or postal delivery staff can't provide professional psychotherapeutic assistance, but in a simple way they can point vulnerable people in the right direction, says Veronika Ridalova, Bright Sky CZ program manager. Since the beginning of February 2020, the Bright Sky mobile application has been free of charge in the Czech Republic for Android and iOS phones. More than 700 people have downloaded it on their phones free of charge. It has been used 330 times to find the nearest center. The quick "Am I in danger?" test has been taken 380 times. The application is based on a British concept that was adapted for use in the Czech Republic. The "Am I in danger?" function has 12 questions for assessing safety. And the search help function has a database of centers offering specialized counseling and shelters, including contacts. It can be searched by the current location or postal code. The Czech app can now be used in the English language as well. That's it for tonight. Thank you for joining us at Uplifting News Sleep Aid Daily. Stay safe and stay inside.